Maria Chen pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallway of the Metropolitan Arts Academy. The wheels squeaked softly on the polished floor. She had been working here for 15 years now. Every day was the same. She arrived at 6 in the morning when the building was still quiet and empty. The academy was a big place. It had classrooms, practice rooms, and a beautiful auditorium. Rich families sent their children here to learn music and art. Maria cleaned all of it. She mopped the floors, emptied the trash, and wiped down the windows. It was hard work, but she never complained. Maria was 52 years old. She had come to America from South Korea when she was 25. She came with her parents and her younger brother. They wanted a better life. Her father worked in a factory. Her mother cleaned houses. Maria started cleaning too. It was what she knew how to do. Now her parents were gone. Her father died 10 years ago. Her mother passed away 3 years later. Maria missed them every day. She had a daughter now, a bright girl named Sophie who was studying to be a teacher. Sophie was everything Maria had worked for. As Maria cleaned, she heard music coming from the practice rooms. A young girl was singing opera. Her voice was high and clear. Maria stopped to listen. She loved music. She always had. When she was alone, she would hum quietly to herself. Sometimes she sang in Korean, the old songs her grandmother taught her when she was little. Maria remembered her grandmother well. She was a small woman with soft hands and a warm smile. She used to sing while cooking or sewing. The songs were about mountains and rivers, about love and loss, about being strong when life was hard. Maria's grandmother told her that music was the language of the heart, but Maria never thought she could be a real singer. That was for other people, people with money and education, people who went to schools like this academy, not for someone like her, not for a cleaning lady. Her mother had told her this many times. Maria, we are simple people. We work hard. We don't dream about things we cannot have. Singing is for rich people. You need to think about paying bills and taking care of family. Maria believed her mother. She pushed her dreams down deep inside. She told herself that listening to music was enough. She didn't need to sing on a stage. She didn't need people to hear her voice. At lunchtime, Maria sat in the small staff room with the other cleaning workers. There was Rosa, who cleaned the bathrooms. There was John, who took care of the grounds outside. There was Linda, who worked in the kitchen. They were her friends. They ate together every day. "Maria, you're humming again," Rosa said with a smile. Maria looked up, surprised. She hadn't realized she was making any sound. "You have a pretty voice," Linda added. "You should sing for us." Maria shook her head quickly. No, I cannot sing. I just hum sometimes, it's nothing." "It's not nothing," John said. "I hear you sometimes when I'm working near the practice rooms. You sound as good as those students." Maria felt her face get hot. She didn't like attention. "You're too kind, but I'm just a cleaning lady. Those students have training. They study for years. I never learned anything like that." Rosa reached across the table and touched Maria's hand. "You don't need school to have a beautiful voice. God gives some people natural talent." Maria smiled but said nothing. She didn't believe Rosa. If she really had talent, someone would have noticed before now. She was 52 years old. If she could sing, she would know it by now. After lunch, Maria went back to work. She cleaned the main auditorium. It was her favorite place in the whole building. The room was huge. Red velvet seats filled the space. A big stage stood at the front. Beautiful lights hung from the ceiling. Maria had seen many concerts here. She always stayed to watch from the back, hidden in the shadows. As she swept the stage, Maria looked out at the empty seats. She imagined what it would feel like to stand here with people watching, to open her mouth and let music fill this beautiful space. But then she shook her head. It was a foolish dream. She finished cleaning and moved to the practice rooms upstairs. In one room, a teacher was working with a student. The teacher was strict. Her name was Professor Williams. She had gray hair pulled back tight. She wore expensive clothes. She looked at people like she was judging them all the time. Maria heard Professor Williams stop the student. No, you're not breathing correctly. Your posture is terrible. Do you even practice at home? This is unacceptable." The student looked upset. She was just a teenager. Maria felt sorry for her. Professor Williams saw Maria at the door. "Can you clean somewhere else? We're working here." "Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am." Maria moved away quickly. She knew her place. She was staff. She was not important. She cleaned the rooms where important people worked. That was her job, nothing more. That evening, Maria rode the bus home. She lived in a small apartment with Sophie. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Sophie was in the kitchen when Maria arrived. "Mom, how was work?" Sophie was 23 years old. She had Maria's dark hair and kind eyes. "Same as always," Maria said. She took off her shoes and put down her bag. They ate dinner together. Sophie talked about her classes and her students. She was doing practice teaching at an elementary school. She loved the children. Maria was so proud of her. "Mom, I saw something interesting today," Sophie said. She pulled out her phone. "The Academy is having a talent showcase next month. It says anyone can audition, staff members too." Maria's heart jumped a little, but she tried to look calm. "That's nice. You should try out," Sophie said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Sophie, no, don't be silly." "Why not? You have a beautiful voice. I hear you singing all the time at home." "That's different. That's just at home. I cannot go on a stage in front of people." "Why not?" Sophie asked again. Maria didn't know how to explain. How could she tell her daughter about all the years of believing she wasn't good enough? How could she explain the fear that lived in her chest? "I'm too old," Maria said finally. "And I have no training. Those showcases are for real performers. You're not too old, and you don't need training to try. Mom, you've worked at that academy for 15 years. You've given them everything. You should do something for yourself for once." Maria looked at her daughter's hopeful face. She wanted to say yes. Part of her wanted to be brave, but the bigger part was scared. "Maybe someday," Maria said quietly. "But not now." Sophie looked disappointed, but didn't push anymore. They finished dinner and watched television together, but Maria couldn't focus on the show. She kept thinking about the talent showcase. She kept imagining herself on that stage. Before bed, Maria stood at her bedroom window. She looked out at the city lights. Then, very softly, she began to sing. It was one of her grandmother's songs. A song about a woman who climbed a mountain even though everyone said she couldn't. A song about being stronger than people think you are. Maria's voice floated through the small apartment. She sang in Korean, the words feeling like home in her mouth. For a few minutes, she wasn't a cleaning lady. She wasn't someone who people looked past. She was just a voice, carrying an old story into the night. In the next room, Sophie heard her mother singing. She smiled in the darkness. Her mother's voice was beautiful. Someday, Sophie thought, the world would hear it too. She just had to find a way to help her mother be brave. Maria finished the song and got into bed. She closed her eyes. In her dreams, she stood on a stage. People listened to her, but when she woke up in the morning, she knew it was just a dream. Real life was different. Real life was cleaning and working and being practical. She got up and got ready for work. Another day at the academy. Another day of being invisible, but deep inside, where she kept her secret dreams, something had started to wake up. Something small but stubborn. Something that wanted to be heard. Maria woke up on Saturday morning feeling strange. Sophie had been acting secretive all week. Every time Maria entered the room, Sophie would quickly close her laptop or hide her phone. Something was going on. "Mom, can you sit down for a minute?" Sophie said at breakfast. She looked nervous and excited at the same time. Maria sat down with her coffee. "What is it?" Sophie took a deep breath. "Please don't be mad at me. I did something and I hope you'll understand." Maria's heart started beating faster. "What did you do?" "I signed you up for the talent showcase at the academy. Your audition is on Monday afternoon." Maria felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "You did what?" "Mom, please listen. You have such a beautiful voice. You deserve a chance. I filled out the form online and they accepted you. You just have to show up and sing one song. Sophie, no. No, no, no. Maria stood up. Her hands were shaking. How could you do this without asking me? Because I knew you would say no. You always say no when it comes to yourself. Mom, you've spent your whole life working for other people. For Grandma and Grandpa. For me. When are you going to do something for you? Maria felt panic rising in her chest. I cannot do this. I'll make a fool of myself. You won't. Mom, trust me. Your voice is special. Just try. If you hate it, you never have to do it again. But please, just try once. Maria looked at her daughter's face. Sophie looked so hopeful. So sure. Maria wanted to run away. She wanted to call the academy and cancel. But she also saw how much this meant to Sophie. What if I'm terrible? Maria whispered. You're not terrible. But even if you were, what's the worst that could happen? Some people hear you sing. Then it's over. But Mom, what if you're amazing? What if this changes everything? Maria sat back down. Her coffee was getting cold. Her whole body felt cold. When is it? Monday at 3 o'clock. You finish work at 2:30, right? You can just stay after your shift. What do I sing? Sophie smiled. Sing one of Grandma's songs. The one about the mountain. You sing it so beautifully. Maria closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother. What would she say? Would she tell Maria to be brave? Or would she agree with Maria's mother that simple people shouldn't dream too big? Okay, Maria said quietly. I'll do it. But Sophie, promise me you won't be disappointed if nothing comes from this. Sophie jumped up and hugged her mother. I promise, I'm just proud of you for trying. The weekend passed too quickly. Maria practiced the song in her room. She felt silly. She felt scared. But she also felt something else. A tiny spark of excitement. A small voice that whispered, what if? Monday came. Maria went to work like normal. She cleaned the hallways and the classrooms. But her mind wasn't on her work. She kept thinking about 3 o'clock. She kept thinking about walking into that audition room. At lunch, Rosa noticed Maria was quiet. Are you okay? You look worried. Maria hadn't told anyone about the audition. She was too embarrassed. I'm fine, just tired. But she wasn't fine. She was terrified. At 2:30, Maria finished her work. She went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She was still wearing her work uniform, a simple blue shirt and black pants. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like what she was, a cleaning lady. She thought about going home. She could leave right now. She could tell Sophie she got sick. But then she remembered her daughter's face, the hope in her eyes. Maria couldn't let her down. She walked to the audition room. Her legs felt like they might not hold her up. Outside the door, she saw other people waiting. Young people. Students. They looked confident. They looked like they belonged here. Maria almost turned around, but then a woman with a clipboard called her name. Maria Chen, you're next. Maria's mouth went dry. She nodded and followed the woman into the room. The room was small but nice. There was a piano in the corner. 3 people sat behind a long table. They had papers in front of them. They looked important. These were the judges. The woman in the middle was Professor Williams, the strict teacher Maria saw yelling at students. She had her gray hair pulled back tight as always. She looked at Maria with surprise. You're Maria Chen? Professor Williams asked. Yes, ma'am. You work here, don't you? You're on the cleaning staff. Maria felt her face get hot. Yes, ma'am. I clean the building. The other 2 judges looked at each other. One was a woman named Ms. Rodriguez. She had dark hair and wore a beautiful red dress. The other was a man named Mr. Kim. He was younger than the others and wore glasses. And you want to audition for our talent showcase? Professor Williams asked. She didn't sound mean, but she didn't sound encouraging either. My daughter signed me up, Maria said quietly. I can leave if this is a problem. No, it's fine, Mr. Kim said. He smiled a little. Anyone can audition, that's the rule. What are you going to sing for us? A Korean folk song. My grandmother taught it to me. Do you have any formal training? Ms. Rodriguez asked. No, ma'am. I never studied music. The three judges looked at each other again. Maria could tell what they were thinking. They were wondering why she was wasting their time. Well, let's hear it, Professor Williams said. She picked up her pen, ready to take notes. Maria stood in the middle of the room. She was still holding her cleaning supplies. She had been in such a hurry that she forgot to put them down. She felt stupid standing there with a spray bottle and a rag. She took a deep breath and started to sing. But the moment she opened her mouth, everything went wrong. Her voice came out small and shaky. She was so nervous that she couldn't breathe properly. The words got stuck in her throat. She could hear how bad she sounded. She had barely sung for 20 seconds when Professor Williams raised her hand. Stop. Please stop. Maria stopped singing. Her heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Professor Williams put down her pen. She looked at Maria with what seemed like pity. I'm going to be honest with you because I think you deserve honesty. What you just did was fundamentally flawed. Maria felt tears starting to come. She fought them back. Your breathing is all wrong, Professor Williams continued. You're not supporting your voice from your diaphragm. Your pitch is unstable. You're flat on most of the notes. Ms. Rodriguez nodded. I'm sorry, but without proper training, you would embarrass yourself on stage. Singing isn't just about making sounds. It's a skill that takes years to develop. Mr. Kim looked uncomfortable. He seemed like he wanted to say something kind, but then he spoke. Maybe you could take some classes first, learn the basics, then perhaps try again next year. But Professor Williams shook her head. I think we need to be realistic here. Maria, you have a job. A good, honest job. Not everyone is meant to be a performer. There's no shame in that. You should stick to what you know. Stick to where you belong. The words hit Maria like a physical blow. Where she belonged. Cleaning floors. Being invisible. Not dreaming. Not trying. Can I go? Maria asked. Her voice was so quiet she could barely hear herself. Yes, of course, Professor Williams said. She was already looking at her papers, ready for the next audition. Maria wasn't important enough to spend more time on. Maria walked out of the room. Her legs felt weak. She walked down the hallway in a daze. She passed a group of students. They were laughing about something. They stopped and looked at her. Maria wondered if they somehow knew what had just happened. Could they tell just by looking at her that she had failed? She went to the staff room and got her things. She needed to leave. She needed to get out of this building. On the bus ride home, Maria stared out the window. She didn't cry. She felt too numb to cry. She kept hearing Professor Williams's voice. Stick to where you belong. Where did she belong? In the shadows? In the background? Always watching other people live their dreams while she cleaned up after them. When Maria got home, Sophie was waiting. Her face was bright with excitement. How did it go? Maria put down her bag. She looked at her daughter. And then, finally, the tears came. Oh no, Sophie said. She ran to her mother and hugged her. What happened? They hated it, Maria said through her tears. I was terrible. They told me I was terrible. They said I should stick to my job. They said I don't belong on a stage. Sophie held her mother tight. Mom, that's not true. You're amazing. No, Sophie, they were right. I was foolish to think I could do this. I'm 52 years old. I'm a cleaning lady. I have no training. What was I thinking? You were thinking that you have a gift, and you do. But Maria couldn't hear her daughter's words. All she could hear was Professor Williams saying she was fundamentally flawed. All she could feel was the shame of being told to know her place. That night, Maria lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She felt like something inside her had broken. It wasn't just the rejection. It was the confirmation of what she had always believed. That she wasn't special. That her dreams were too big for someone like her. She thought about her mother's words from years ago. We are simple people. We don't dream about things we cannot have. Her mother had been right. Dreams were for other people, not for Maria Chen. The next few days were hard for Maria. She went to work like always, but something had changed. She stopped humming while she cleaned. She didn't even want to hear music anymore. When she walked past the practice rooms and heard students singing, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. Rosa noticed the change. "Maria, you're so quiet these days. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine," Maria lied. But she wasn't fine. She felt hollow inside. Sophie tried to talk to her at home. "Mom, please don't let those judges make you feel bad. They were wrong about you." But Maria just shook her head. "They weren't wrong. I heard how I sounded. I was terrible. You were nervous, that's all. If you practiced more, No, Sophie. Please, I don't want to talk about this anymore." Sophie looked hurt, but she stopped bringing it up. Maria felt bad for shutting her daughter out, but she couldn't help it. The wound was too fresh. The shame was too deep. At work, Maria tried to make herself even more invisible than before. She avoided the main auditorium. She didn't want to look at the stage anymore. She didn't want to remember the foolish dream she had of standing there. One evening, Maria was cleaning late. Most people had gone home. The building was quiet. She was supposed to clean the main auditorium, but she had been avoiding it all week. Finally, she knew she couldn't put it off anymore. She pushed her cart into the big room. The lights were dim. The red velvet seat sat empty. The stage looked huge and dark. Maria started sweeping the floor between the rows of seats. As she worked, she thought about her life. 52 years old. What did she have to show for it? A daughter, yes. Sophie was her greatest joy. But what else? Years of cleaning. Years of being invisible. Years of pushing down everything she wanted for herself. The tears started without warning. They came fast and hard. Maria dropped her broom and sat down in one of the seats. She put her face in her hands and cried. She cried for her lost dream. She cried for her grandmother, who had taught her those beautiful songs. She cried for all the years she had spent believing she wasn't good enough. The sobs echoed in the empty auditorium. Maria didn't try to stop them. There was no one here to see her fall apart. "I'm sorry, Grandma," she whispered in Korean. "I'm sorry I failed. I'm sorry I'm not brave like the woman in your song." She sat there for a long time crying in the darkness. She felt so small, so defeated, so tired of trying to be strong. Then she heard footsteps. Maria quickly wiped her face and looked up. A man was walking down the aisle toward her. It was James, the night security guard. He was in his 60s with gray hair and kind eyes. "I'm sorry," Maria said quickly. "I'm almost done cleaning. I'll finish now." "Take your time," James said gently. He sat down in the seat next to her. "You okay?" Maria wanted to say yes. She wanted to pretend everything was fine. But she was too tired to lie. "No," she said. "I'm not okay." James nodded. "I heard about your audition. Word travels in a place like this." Maria felt her face get hot with shame. "Everyone knows I failed." "Everyone knows you tried," James corrected. "That takes courage." "It takes stupidity," Maria said bitterly. "I should have known better." They sat in silence for a moment. Then James spoke again. "Can I tell you something? I used to work in theater. Long time ago, before I became a security guard. I was a stage manager for 15 years. Maria looked at him in surprise. She had never known this about James. "I saw thousands of performances," James continued. "Some great, some terrible. You know what I learned? The technical stuff, the training, all of that is important. But it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is whether someone has something real to say. Whether they have feeling in their heart. The judges said I had bad technique. I'm sure they did, and maybe they were right, but you know what else is true? I heard you singing that night." Maria looked at him in confusion. "What night?" "Last week. I was doing my rounds and I walked past here. The door was cracked open. You were in here cleaning. And you were singing. Really singing. Not like in that audition. You were singing like you meant it. Maria felt her heart skip. She had been singing that night? She didn't remember. What did I sound like? She asked quietly. Like someone who understands what music really is, James said. Like someone with a gift. Maria shook her head. You're being kind. But the judges heard you when you were scared, when you were trying to be something you're not. But that night when you thought no one was listening, you were yourself, and it was beautiful. Maria felt new tears coming, but different tears. Not tears of shame, tears of something else. Hope, maybe. Or longing. My daughter said the same thing, Maria admitted. She said I held back in the audition, that I wasn't really singing from my heart. Your daughter sounds smart. She is. But James, even if that's true, what difference does it make? The audition is over. The judges made their decision. James was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You know, this auditorium is empty every night. I'm here anyway, walking around, making sure everything is secure. If you wanted to practice, really practice, you could come here after your shift. No judges, no pressure, just you and the music. Maria looked at the stage. In the dim light, it looked different, less scary, almost inviting. I don't know, she said. What if I'm just fooling myself? What if I really don't have any talent? Then you'll know for sure, James said, and you can let it go. But Maria, what if you do have talent? What if those judges were wrong? Don't you want to know? Maria thought about this. Did she want to know? Part of her wanted to give up, to accept her place, to stop reaching for things that seemed impossible. But another part, a part that sounded like her grandmother's voice, whispered that she had to try. Really try. Not the nervous, scared version of herself that showed up at the audition. The real Maria. The Maria who sang in the darkness when no one was watching. Okay, she said finally. I'll try. James smiled. Good. Come tomorrow night, after you finish cleaning. I'll let you in. The next evening, Maria finished her work and went to the auditorium. Her heart was beating fast, but it was different than before. This wasn't the fear of being judged. This was the fear of trying something real. James was waiting for her. He unlocked the door and turned on the stage lights. It's all yours, he said. Maria walked down the aisle. She climbed the steps to the stage. The lights were bright and warm. She stood at the center and looked out at the empty seats. What should I do? She asked. Her voice echoed in the big space. Sing your grandmother's song, James called from the back of the room. The one about the mountain, but this time don't think about technique. Don't think about the judges. Think about why your grandmother sang this song. Think about what it means. Maria closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother and her small kitchen in Korea. She thought about the woman in the song who climbed the mountain even when everyone said she couldn't. She thought about her own life, all the mountains she had climbed just to survive and take care of her family. Then she opened her mouth and sang. At first her voice was soft, uncertain. But then something changed. She remembered what Sophie said. She remembered what James said. She stopped trying to be perfect. She stopped worrying about what she sounded like. She just let the song come from somewhere deep inside. Her voice grew stronger. It filled the auditorium. The old Korean words carried the story of struggle and strength. Maria felt tears on her face, but she kept singing. The song poured out of her like water that had been held back too long. When she finished, the last note hung in the air for a moment. Then there was silence. Maria opened her eyes. She saw James standing at the back of the auditorium. He was clapping. That, he called out, was what I heard that night. That was the real you. Maria felt something shift inside her. She had heard herself this time. Really heard herself. And it was different. It wasn't perfect. Her breathing wasn't right in some places. Her pitch wavered sometimes. But it was real. It was honest. It had feeling. Can I do it again? She asked. James smiled. As many times as you want. For the next 2 hours, Maria practiced. She sang the song over and over. Each time was a little different. Each time she discovered something new in the melody, something new in the words. James sat in the audience and listened. Sometimes he would call out suggestions. Breathe deeper there. Don't rush that part. Feel the meaning of those words. When they finally stopped, Maria's throat was tired, but she felt more alive than she had in years. Will you come back tomorrow? James asked. Yes, Maria said. I'll come back. And she did. The next night, and the night after that. For 3 weeks, Maria came to the empty auditorium after work. She practiced her grandmother's song. James was always there, listening and encouraging. One night, James asked if he could record her on his phone. So you can hear yourself, he explained. Maria was nervous, but she agreed. She sang while James recorded. Then he played it back for her. Maria listened to her own voice coming from the phone. She was shocked. It didn't sound like she thought it would. It sounded strong, emotional, real. It wasn't technically perfect, but it had something that mattered more than perfection. That's me, she asked in wonder. That's you, James confirmed. That's your real voice, the one you've been hiding all these years. Maria listened to the recording again and again. She couldn't believe this sound was coming from her. From Maria Chen, the cleaning lady who everyone overlooked. 3 weeks passed. Maria continued to practice every night in the empty auditorium. Her confidence grew slowly, like a flower opening its petals one by one. She was no longer the terrified woman who had walked into the audition room. Something inside her was changing. At home, Sophie noticed the difference. Her mother smiled more. She had light in her eyes again. One evening, Sophie heard her mother singing in the shower. It was the first time since the failed audition. Sophie felt relieved. She had been so worried about her mother. Mom, you seem happier, Sophie said at dinner. Maria looked at her daughter. She had wanted to keep the practice sessions secret. She was afraid of jinxing it, afraid of being disappointed again. But she couldn't keep it from Sophie anymore. I've been practicing, Maria admitted, at the auditorium, after work. James, the security guard, he lets me use the space. Sophie's face lit up. Really? Mom? That's wonderful. Can I come watch? Not yet, Maria said quickly. I'm not ready for an audience, even an audience of one. But Sophie, you were right. In the audition, I was so scared that I couldn't sing properly. Now when I practice alone, it's different. I can feel the music. Sophie reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. I'm proud of you for not giving up. At work, Maria still did her job quietly. She didn't tell anyone about her practice sessions. Rosa and Linda knew something had changed, but they didn't know what. Maria just seemed lighter somehow, less burdened. One Friday evening, as Maria was finishing her practice, James approached her with his phone. Maria, I want to show you something. He pulled up a website. It was the Academy's page. They're having a charity gala in 2 weeks. It's a big fundraiser. Faculty performs, some advanced students perform. But look here. He pointed at a section of the page. They invite staff members to contribute their talents too. Any staff who wants to can sign up to perform. Maria felt her stomach flip. James, no, I can't do that. Why not? Because those judges will be there. Professor Williams, all of them. They'll remember me. They'll remember how I failed. James sat down in one of the seats. Maria, let me ask you something. Why have you been practicing these past 3 weeks? Maria thought about it. Because I love it. Because it makes me feel alive. Because when I sing my grandmother's song, I feel connected to her. I feel like I'm honoring her memory. Those are all good reasons, James said. But is there another reason? Even a small one? A reason that wants other people to hear what you can do? Maria was quiet. She knew the answer. Yes, there was a small part of her that wanted to prove the judges wrong. A part that wanted to show them she was more than they thought. But that part scared her. What if I fail again? She whispered. What if you don't? James countered. Maria, you're not the same person who walked into that audition. You've practiced. You've found your real voice. And you know what else? Those judges have never heard you like this. They heard you when you were terrified. They've never heard you when you're confident and true to yourself. I'm not confident, Maria said. You're more confident than you think. I see it when you sing now. You stand taller, you breathe deeper. You're not trying to be anyone else anymore. You're just Maria, singing a song that matters to her. Maria looked at the stage. She had spent 3 weeks here, alone with her voice and her memories. Part of her wanted to keep it that way, keep it safe, keep it private. But another part wanted more. If I sign up, will you be there? She asked. I'll be right there in the audience, James promised, cheering for you. Maria took a deep breath. Okay, I'll do it. But James, please don't tell anyone. I don't want people to know ahead of time. I don't want the pressure. Your secret is safe with me, James said. That night, Maria went home and told Sophie. Her daughter practically jumped with excitement. Mom, this is amazing. You're going to be wonderful. Don't get too excited, Maria warned. It might be a disaster. But Sophie shook her head. It won't be. I believe in you. The next day, Maria found the sign-up sheet in the staff room. Her hand shook as she wrote her name. She put down that she would sing a traditional Korean folk song. Then she quickly left before anyone saw. The 2 weeks before the gala went by too fast. Maria practiced every night. James recorded her a few more times so she could hear herself. Each recording sounded better than the last. Maria was starting to understand her voice. She was learning to control her breathing. She was learning to let emotion come through without letting nerves take over. But as the gala got closer, the fear started creeping back in. Maria would wake up in the middle of the night with her heart racing. She would imagine walking onto that stage. She would imagine seeing Professor Williams in the audience. She would imagine failing all over again. I can't do this, she told James 1 week before the gala. I should cancel. You can do this, James said firmly. Maria, I've heard you sing this song 50 times now. You know it inside and out. You own it. This is your song. No one else can sing it the way you do. But what if you're amazing, James interrupted. What if everyone hears what I hear? What if those judges realize they made a mistake? Maria wanted to believe him, but doubt was a heavy thing. The day before the gala, Sophie helped Maria pick out a dress. Nothing fancy. Maria didn't have money for expensive clothes. But Sophie found a simple navy blue dress at a thrift store. It was modest and elegant. When Maria tried it on, Sophie smiled. You look beautiful, Mom. Maria looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't see a cleaning lady. She saw a woman who was about to do something brave, something terrifying, something that might change everything or might change nothing, but she was going to do it anyway. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She lay in bed going over the song in her head. She thought about her grandmother. She wished her grandmother could be there to see this. Then she realized maybe she would be. In the song, in the words, in the story of the woman who climbed the mountain. The day of the gala arrived. Maria went to work as usual. She cleaned the building like she did every day. But inside, her stomach was in knots. Several times she thought about backing out. She could just not show up. She could pretend she had gotten sick. But then she would remember James listening patiently night after night. She would remember Sophie's proud face. She would remember the feeling of singing in the empty auditorium, of finally letting her voice be free. At noon, Maria went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. You can do this, she told her reflection. You are the woman who climbs the mountain. You are your grandmother's granddaughter. You are brave. She didn't fully believe it, but she said it anyway. The gala started at 7 in the evening. Maria finished her shift at 2:30. She went to the staff room and changed into her navy blue dress. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely zip it up. Rosa walked in and saw her. Maria, why are you so dressed up? Maria's face turned red. I'm performing tonight in the gala. Rosa's eyes went wide. You are? That's wonderful. What are you doing? Singing. I didn't know you could sing. I'm not sure I can, Maria said honestly, but I'm going to try. Rosa hugged her. I'll be there. I'm working the coat check tonight. I'll be cheering for you. As the evening approached, Maria stayed backstage. She watched through the curtains as people filled the auditorium. So many people. The seats were almost full. She saw men in suits and women in beautiful dresses. She saw the 3 judges sitting in the front row. Professor Williams looked elegant in black. Ms. Rodriguez wore red again. Mr. Kim looked relaxed in a dark suit. Maria's heart pounded so hard she thought it might explode. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. But her feet stayed planted where she were. Other performers went on stage. A faculty member played piano beautifully. Some advanced students sang opera. Everything was so polished, so professional. Maria felt completely out of place. James found her backstage. How are you holding up? I'm terrified, Maria admitted. Good, James said. That means you care. But remember, this isn't about them. He gestured toward the audience. This is about you and your grandmother and that song. Sing it for her. Forget everyone else is there. Maria nodded, but she couldn't speak. Her throat felt tight. The MC went on stage and announced a special surprise. We have a wonderful treat for you tonight. One of our dedicated staff members will be performing. Please welcome Maria Chen. Maria heard polite applause. She forced her legs to move. She walked onto the stage on shaking legs. The lights were bright. She couldn't see individual faces, but she could feel hundreds of eyes on her. She saw Professor Williams lean over and whisper something to Ms. Rodriguez. Both of them looked surprised. Not pleasantly surprised, just surprised that the cleaning lady was on stage. Maria stood at the microphone. She opened her mouth to introduce herself, but her voice came out small and shaky. Hello. My name is Maria. I clean this building. I'm going to sing a song my grandmother taught me. It's about being stronger than people think you are. The audience was quiet. She could feel their skepticism. She could feel them wondering why they had to sit through this. Maria stood alone on the stage. The lights were warm on her face. The microphone stood in front of her like a challenge. She could hear her own breathing in the silence. In the front row, Professor Williams crossed her arms. The gesture said everything. She was already judging, already deciding this was a waste of time. Maria closed her eyes. She couldn't look at the judges. She couldn't look at the audience. She had to go somewhere else in her mind. Somewhere safe. She thought about her grandmother's kitchen in Korea, the small table where they ate breakfast, the window that looked out onto a garden. She thought about sitting there as a little girl, watching her grandmother cook and sing. Her grandmother's voice had been rough from age, but it was beautiful because it was real. It was honest. This song is for you, grandmother, Maria whispered in Korean. The audience couldn't hear her. It was just for herself. Then she began to sing. The first note came out soft, gentle, like a door opening slowly. It was the traditional melody, ancient and sad and beautiful. The Korean words flowed from Maria's mouth like water from a spring. For the first few seconds, she was still scared. She could feel the fear in her chest. But then something happened. The song took over. The story and the music became more important than her fear. Maria's voice grew stronger. It filled the auditorium. She wasn't thinking about technique anymore. She wasn't thinking about breathing from her diaphragm or hitting the right notes. She was thinking about the woman in the song. The woman who climbed the mountain even though everyone said she was too weak, too old, too simple. The melody rose and fell like waves. Maria's voice carried pain and hope at the same time. She sang about struggling, about falling, about getting back up. The Korean words told the story, but even people who didn't understand the language could feel what the song meant. In the audience, something was changing. People who had been checking their phones put them away. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. A woman in the third row who had been whispering to her husband went silent. A man near the back who had been looking bored sat up straighter. They were listening. Really listening. Maria sang the second verse. Her voice grew even more powerful. There was a moment in the song where the woman in the story reaches the halfway point of the mountain. She's tired. She wants to give up. The melody becomes uncertain, wavering. Maria's voice captured that uncertainty perfectly. Then came the turning point. The moment when the woman decides to keep climbing. The melody shifted. It became determined, strong. Maria's voice soared. She hit a note that rang through the auditorium like a bell. In the front row, Professor Williams uncrossed her arms. Her mouth opened slightly. She leaned forward in her seat. Ms. Rodriguez put her hand over her heart. Her eyes were fixed on Maria. Mr. Kim took off his glasses and wiped them, then put them back on. He wanted to make sure he was seeing and hearing correctly. Maria moved into the third verse. This was the part of the song where the woman nears the top of the mountain. She's exhausted, but she can see the summit. The melody here was both sad and triumphant. Maria's voice did something remarkable. It showed both the pain of the journey and the joy of almost reaching the goal. Tears began rolling down Maria's cheeks as she sang. She wasn't crying from sadness. She wasn't crying from fear. She was crying because the song had cracked something open inside her. All the years of being told to stay in her place, all the years of believing she wasn't good enough, all the years of being invisible. It was all pouring out through her voice. Around the auditorium, people were crying too. A young woman in the fifth row wiped her eyes with a tissue. An older man in the back row had tears on his face. Rosa, working the coat check at the back, stood in the doorway with tears streaming down her cheeks. Sophie sat in the middle section watching her mother with pride and tears. This was her mother, the woman who had worked so hard for so many years, the woman who had sacrificed everything, and now, finally, she was letting the world see the beautiful soul inside her. Maria sang the final verse. This was the moment when the woman reaches the top of the mountain. She looks back at how far she's climbed. She looks forward at the view she's earned. The melody here was pure triumph, but it wasn't loud or showy. It was quiet victory, the victory of someone who proved themselves to themselves, not to anyone else. Maria's voice held the final note. It was long and strong and absolutely clear. The note seemed to hang in the air like a bird suspended in flight. Then slowly, gently, it faded to silence. It faded. Maria opened her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. The silence felt heavy. Had she done something wrong? Had she failed again? Then the auditorium exploded. People jumped to their feet. The applause was like thunder. It rolled through the room in waves. People were shouting, clapping. Some were still crying. Maria stood on the stage in shock. She couldn't believe what was happening. This couldn't be for her. This couldn't be because of her singing. But it was. The standing ovation continued. And continued. Maria just stood there, tears running down her face, not knowing what to do with her hands. In the front row, Professor Williams was on her feet. She was clapping hard. Her face showed something Maria had never seen before. Respect, maybe even awe. Ms. Rodriguez was clapping with her hands above her head. She was smiling and crying at the same time. Mr. Kim was nodding his head as he clapped, as if agreeing with something someone had said. The applause went on for 2 full minutes. People wouldn't stop. They wanted Maria to know what her song had done to them, how it had moved them, how it had touched something real inside them. Finally, the MC came back on stage. He was clapping too. He put his hand on Maria's shoulder. "Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Chen," he announced. The applause started all over again. Maria looked out at the audience. She saw James at the back, clapping and grinning like a proud father. She saw Rosa jumping up and down. She saw Sophie with her hands pressed to her mouth, sobbing with joy. And in that moment, Maria understood something. This wasn't about being technically perfect. This wasn't about having formal training or knowing all the rules. This was about being human, about being real, about letting people see your heart. The woman in the song had climbed the mountain, and so had Maria. As the applause finally began to die down, Professor Williams did something unexpected. She walked toward the stage. The audience went quiet, wondering what she would do. Everyone remembered that she was one of the judges who had rejected Maria. Professor Williams climbed the stairs to the stage. She approached Maria slowly. Maria's heart started racing again. Was she going to criticize her, point out all the technical flaws? But instead, Professor Williams took the microphone. She turned to face the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "I need to say something. I need to make a public apology." The audience went completely silent. Professor Williams turned to Maria. "A few weeks ago, you came to audition for our talent showcase. I was one of the judges, and I rejected you. I told you that you were fundamentally flawed. I told you to stick to your job. I told you that you didn't belong on a stage." Maria's face burned. She wanted to disappear. But Professor Williams continued. "I was wrong, completely wrong, and I'm sorry." She turned back to the audience. "For 30 years, I've been teaching voice at this academy. I've taught hundreds of students. I've judged thousands of auditions, and in all that time, I've been focused on one thing: technical perfection, proper breathing, correct pitch, classical technique." She paused. "But tonight, Maria taught me something. She taught me that there's something more important than technique. There's truth, there's emotion, there's connection. Maria, you have something I can't teach. You have a voice that comes from the soul, and I'm honored that I got to hear it." The audience burst into applause again. Professor Williams turned to Maria and held out her hand. Maria, still in shock, shook it. Then Professor Williams did something even more surprising. She hugged Maria. The strict, cold professor hugged the cleaning lady she had rejected. When they separated, Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Kim came onto the stage too. Ms. Rodriguez's face was wet with tears. "Maria, I'm sorry too. In my years as an opera singer, I heard a lot of beautiful voices, but I've rarely heard a voice with as much heart as yours. You reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place." Mr. Kim adjusted his glasses. "I make the same apology. We judged you on technical criteria and missed what really matters. You have a gift, Maria, a real gift." The director of the academy, a tall man in an expensive suit, came onto the stage. "Maria, we would be honored if you would consider performing at our spring concert series. We would like more people to hear your voice." Maria couldn't speak. She could only nod. This didn't feel real. It felt like a dream. But the warm lights were real. The applause was real. Sophie's crying face in the audience was real. After the performance, Maria couldn't get off the stage for 20 minutes. People kept coming up to her. They shook her hand. They hugged her. They told her how much her song had moved them. A woman in a beautiful green dress approached with tears still on her face. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." "What was the song about?" Maria's English wasn't perfect, but she tried to explain. "It's about a woman who climbs a mountain. Everyone tells her she's too weak, too old. She should stay home. But she climbs anyway. When she reaches the top, she learns something important. She was always strong enough. She just had to believe in herself." The woman smiled. "That's your story too, isn't it?" Maria thought about this. "Yes," she said quietly. "I think maybe it is." A tall man in a suit introduced himself. "My name is David Park. I'm a music producer here in Seattle. I'd love to talk to you about recording that song. Do you have a card?" Maria almost laughed. A card? She was a cleaning lady. She didn't have a business card. No, I don't have a card, but I work here, at the academy. You can find me." David Park smiled. "I'll do that. What you did tonight was special, Maria. Very special." Sophie finally made her way through the crowd to her mother. She threw her arms around Maria and held on tight. "Mom, I'm so proud of you, so proud." Maria held her daughter. She was still shaking, still trying to understand what had just happened. "Did I really do okay?" Sophie laughed through her tears. "Okay? Mom, you were incredible. Everyone was crying. Everyone was on their feet. You were amazing." James appeared with a huge smile on his weathered face. "I told you," he said simply. "I told you that you had it in you." Maria hugged him. "Thank you, James. Without you, I never would have tried again. You gave me my voice back. No, James corrected gently. You always had your voice. I just gave you a place to find it. Rosa pushed through the crowd and grabbed Maria in a fierce hug. Why didn't you tell me? I've been working with you for 10 years and I didn't know you could sing like that. I didn't know either, Maria said honestly. Not really. Not until tonight. The crowd eventually cleared. The gala continued with other performances, but Maria was the one people kept talking about. She heard whispers as she walked backstage to change back into her regular clothes. That was the cleaning lady. Did you hear her? I've never heard anything like it. Maria went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She was wearing the navy blue dress. Her face was flushed. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked like herself, but also different. Like something inside her had shifted into a new position. She thought about the audition weeks ago. How she had stood in that small room, terrified and small. How Professor Williams had cut her off after 20 seconds. How she had been told to know her place. And now that same professor had apologized to her in front of hundreds of people. Had told her she was wrong. Had admitted that Maria had something special. Maria changed back into her regular clothes. She carefully hung up the navy blue dress. She would keep it forever. It would always remind her of this night, the night she climbed her mountain. When she left the building, Sophie was waiting outside. Let's go home, Mom. You must be exhausted. They rode the bus home together. Maria looked out the window at the city lights. Everything looked different. Or maybe she was different. She wasn't sure which. At home, Maria made tea. She and Sophie sat at their small kitchen table. It was late, almost midnight, but neither of them could sleep. What happens now? Sophie asked. Maria shook her head. I don't know. I still have to go to work tomorrow. I still have bills to pay. Nothing has really changed. Everything has changed, Sophie said firmly. Mom, people heard you. Really heard you. That producer wants to record you. The Academy wants you to perform again. This is the beginning of something. Maria wanted to believe her daughter, but she was also practical. She had learned not to hope for too much. Maybe. Or maybe tonight was just one special moment. Maybe tomorrow everyone will forget. But the next morning, Maria learned that Sophie was right. Everything had changed. When she arrived at work, people she had never spoken to before stopped her in the hallways. You were wonderful last night. I can't believe you've been here all this time and we didn't know. You have such a gift. Maria didn't know what to say. She just smiled and thanked them and tried to get to her work. Rosa found her in the supply closet. Maria, have you seen this? She showed Maria her phone. There was a video online. Someone had recorded Maria's performance and posted it. It already had thousands of views. Maria stared at the phone in shock. What? How? Someone filmed it and it's spreading fast. People are sharing it everywhere. They're calling it the cleaning lady's amazing performance and woman proves judges wrong. Maria felt dizzy. She sat down on a bucket. I don't understand. Why would people care about me? Because you're real, Rosa said. Because your story is beautiful. Because your voice is beautiful. Maria, you're going to be famous. I don't want to be famous. I just wanted to sing my grandmother's song, but over the next few days the video kept spreading. It reached 100,000 views, then 500,000, then 1 million. People from all over the world were watching Maria sing. They were commenting, sharing their own stories of being told they weren't good enough, thanking Maria for inspiring them. The local news came to the Academy. They wanted to interview Maria. She almost said no, but Sophie convinced her to do it. Mom, you have a message people need to hear. You have to share it. So Maria sat for an interview. The reporter asked her about her life, about being a cleaning lady, about the rejection, about finding the courage to try again. What would you say to people who have been told they're not good enough? The reporter asked. Maria thought carefully before answering. I would say that sometimes the people who judge us are wrong. Sometimes they only see the surface. They don't see what's inside. But more important, I would say that we judge ourselves too harshly. We believe the bad voices in our head. The voices that say we're too old, too simple, too late. But those voices are wrong. It's never too late to try. It's never too late to be brave. The interview aired that evening. More people saw it. The video of her performance got even more views. David Park, the music producer, came to find Maria at work. "I'm serious about recording your song. I think people need to hear it. The full version, professionally recorded." "What do you say?" Maria was overwhelmed. "I don't know anything about recording. I don't know what to do." "You don't have to know, that's my job. You just have to sing. Can you do that?" Maria thought about her grandmother. She thought about the song and what it meant. "Yes," she said. "I can do that." They scheduled the recording for the following Saturday. Maria was nervous all week. She practiced every night in the auditorium with James, but she also tried not to practice too much. She didn't want to lose the natural feeling, the raw emotion. Saturday came. Sophie went with her to the recording studio. It was in a different part of the city, in a building Maria had never been to before. Inside, it was full of equipment she didn't understand. Computers and microphones and soundboards with hundreds of buttons. David introduced her to his team, a sound engineer, an assistant. They were all professional and kind. They set up a microphone in a small room with padded walls. "This is a vocal booth," David explained. "The padding helps with the sound quality. Just stand here and sing like you did at the gala. Don't worry about anything else, we'll handle the technical stuff." Maria put on the headphones they gave her. She could hear her own breathing loud in her ears. She felt nervous again. This was different from the stage. This was permanent. This would be recorded forever. "Whenever you're ready," David's voice came through the headphones. Maria closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother's kitchen. She thought about the mountain. She thought about climbing and struggling and reaching the top. She thought about proving herself to herself. Then she sang. She sang the whole song through. When she finished, there was silence. Maria opened her eyes, worried. Had something gone wrong? Then David came into the vocal booth. He had tears in his eyes. "Maria, that was perfect. One take. You did it in one take. Most singers need dozens of tries to get it right. But you just sang it exactly as it needed to be sung." They recorded a few more versions just to have options. But David was right. The first one was the best. It had the raw, real emotion that made the song special. After the recording, David said something that surprised Maria. "I want to do something with this. I want to release it as a single. Make it available online. Maybe even get it on the radio. Are you okay with that?" Maria didn't understand the music business. She didn't know what any of this meant, but she trusted David. "Okay," she said, "if you think it's good enough." David laughed. "Good enough? Maria, this is going to touch a lot of hearts. Trust me." Over the next 2 weeks, David worked on the recording. He mixed it and mastered it. He added subtle accompaniment, just a gentle guitar and some soft strings. Nothing that took away from Maria's voice. Everything that supported it. Then he released it online. He called the song "The Mountain" and credited it to Maria Chen. He wrote a description telling Maria's story, about being a cleaning lady, about being rejected, about trying again, about proving everyone wrong. The song went live on a Monday morning. By Monday evening it had 10,000 downloads. By Tuesday it had 50,000. By Wednesday it was trending on music platforms. People were calling it the most moving song they had heard in years. Maria still went to work every day. She still cleaned the academy. But now, when she pushed her cart down the hallways, people recognized her. Students asked for photos with her. Faculty members stopped to chat with her. She was no longer invisible. It felt strange, good, but strange, good, but the comments on the song were overwhelming. Maria asked Sophie to read some of them to her. This one says, "I'm 65 years old and I gave up on my dreams decades ago. This song made me realize it's not too late." And this one says, "I've been told I'm not good enough my whole life. Thank you for showing me that those people were wrong." "Oh, Mom," this one says, I played this for my mother who's in a nursing home. She cried and said it reminded her of her own mother's songs from the old country. Maria listened with tears in her eyes. I never thought my grandmother's song would touch so many people. It's not just the song, Sophie said. It's you. It's your story. You represent everyone who's been overlooked. Everyone who's been told to stay in their place. Everyone who climbed their mountain anyway. The academy's director called Maria into his office. Maria was nervous. Was she in trouble? Had she done something wrong? But the director smiled when she entered. Maria, please sit down. I wanted to talk to you about your future here. Maria sat carefully in the chair across from his desk. My future? We'd like to keep you on staff, of course. You've been an excellent employee for 15 years. But we'd also like to offer you something additional. We want to start a special program, a music program for adults who never had the chance to pursue their artistic dreams. We'd like you to be involved, perhaps as a mentor, perhaps even as a teacher. Maria was stunned. But I'm not qualified to teach. I have no training, no degree. The director leaned back in his chair. You have something more valuable than a degree. You have lived experience. You understand what it's like to doubt yourself, to be rejected, to find your voice anyway. That's what these students will need. Not technical training, we have plenty of teachers for that. They need inspiration, they need someone who shows them it's possible. I don't know what to say. Say yes. We'll start small. Maybe a workshop once a week. You can talk about your journey. You can sing. You can help other people find their confidence. We'll pay you, of course. It would be in addition to your regular salary. Maria thought about this. Could she really help other people? She was still figuring things out herself. But then she remembered how James had helped her, how his belief in her had changed everything. Maybe she could do that for someone else. Yes, she said. I'll try. The workshop was announced in the local community newsletter. Finding Your Voice, a workshop with Maria Chen. Maria was terrified. What if no one came? Or worse, what if people came and she disappointed them? But on the first evening of the workshop, 30 people showed up. They were all ages. A woman in her 70s, a man in his 40s, a young person fresh out of college. They all had one thing in common. They had been told they weren't good enough. They had given up on their dreams, and Maria's story had made them want to try again. Maria stood in front of the group. She was in a small classroom at the academy, the same building where she cleaned floors. But now she was here as something different, as a teacher, as an inspiration. Hello, she began. Her voice shook a little. Thank you for coming. I'm not a professional teacher. I'm not an expert. I'm just someone who learned something important, and I want to share it with you. The group listened intently. For most of my life, I believed I wasn't good enough. I believed that music was for other people, people with money, people with education, people who weren't like me. I cleaned the floors where those people walked. I listened to their music through closed doors, and I thought that was where I belonged. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Then something happened. I tried. I failed. Someone told me I was fundamentally flawed. And I believed them. I almost gave up completely. But someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He gave me a place to practice, a place to find my real voice, not the scared voice, not the voice that tries to please judges, my real voice. Maria looked at the faces in front of her. She saw her own past self in each of them. That's what I want to help you find. Not technical perfection, not the voice that someone else thinks you should have. Your real voice, the one that tells your truth. Over the next 2 hours, Maria led the group through exercises. She had them talk about what stopped them from pursuing their dreams. She had them sing, first quietly, then louder. She taught them what James had taught her. That music isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. At the end of the workshop, a woman approached Maria. She was about Maria's age, with gray hair and tired eyes. Thank you, she said simply. I haven't sung since I was a little girl. My father told me I had an ugly voice. I believed him for 50 years. But tonight I sang and it felt like coming home. Maria hugged her. That's what it should feel like coming home. The workshop became a regular thing. Every week Maria met with the group. They sang together. They shared their stories. They encouraged each other. Some of them were good singers. Some weren't. But that wasn't the point. The point was that they were trying. They were being brave. Meanwhile, the mountain continued to spread. It reached 3 million plays, then 5 million. Radio stations started playing it. It wasn't a pop song. It wasn't trendy. But people connected with it. They felt something real in Maria's voice. A morning talk show in Seattle invited Maria to appear. Sophie helped her prepare. Just be yourself, Mom. Tell your story. That's what people want to hear. Maria sat on the bright couch under the studio lights. The host was a friendly woman named Jennifer. She asked Maria about her life, about the rejection, about finding her voice. What do you say to people who think they're too old to start something new? Jennifer asked. Maria smiled. I say, look at me, I'm 52. I started singing publicly a few months ago. I'm not too old. You're not too old. Age is just a number. What matters is whether you have something inside you that wants to come out. And what about people who have been rejected? Who have been told they're not good enough? I say that rejection is just one person's opinion. One moment in time. It doesn't define you. Professor Williams rejected me. She had good reasons based on her experience and training. But she was wrong about what mattered most. She was wrong about my heart. Don't let one person's rejection stop you from trying again. The interview went well. More people heard Maria's story. More people were inspired. But something unexpected happened too. Professor Williams called Maria and asked to meet for coffee. Maria was nervous, but she agreed. They met at a small cafe near the academy. Professor Williams arrived in her usual elegant clothes, but she looked different. Softer somehow. Thank you for meeting me, Professor Williams said. I wanted to talk to you privately. Of course, Maria said. Professor Williams stirred her coffee for a moment before speaking. I've been teaching for 30 years. I've trained hundreds of students. Many of them have gone on to successful careers. I was proud of my track record. I was proud of my standards. She looked up at Maria. But you taught me something. You taught me that I've been too focused on one type of excellence. Technical excellence. I've been judging voices on criteria that miss the most important thing. Whether someone has something real to say. Whether they can move people's hearts. You're a wonderful teacher, Maria said. I've seen you work with students. You teach them important skills. I do, Professor Williams agreed. But I also crush some of them. I focus so much on what they're doing wrong that I forget to nurture what makes them special. You've changed how I teach. I'm trying to listen differently now. To hear not just the notes, but the person behind the notes. Maria was touched. That means a lot to hear. I wanted to ask you something. Professor Williams continued. Would you consider co-teaching with me sometimes? I could teach the technical aspects, you could teach the heart. Together, we might create something special. Maria was surprised. Me? Co-teach with you? But I don't know music theory. I can't read music. I don't know the technical terms. You know the most important things, Professor Williams said. You know how to be authentic. You know how to connect emotion to sound. You know how to overcome fear. Those are things I can't teach. But you can. Maria thought about this. It seemed impossible. A cleaning lady teaching alongside one of the most respected voice teachers in the city. But then again, 3 months ago, it had seemed impossible that she would sing on stage. And here she was. Okay, Maria said. I'll try. They started teaching together once a week. Professor Williams would work with students on technique, breathing, posture, pitch control. Then Maria would work with them on feeling, on finding the emotional truth of a song, on singing from the heart instead of from fear. The students loved it. They said it was the most helpful class they had ever taken. They learned the skills they needed, but they also learned why those skills mattered. They learned that music was a way to communicate something real, One day, a young student approached Maria after class. She was a Korean-American girl, maybe 18 years old. She looked nervous. "Ms. Chen, can I talk to you?" "Of course, what's your name?" "Min Ji. I heard your song, the one in Korean. It made me cry." "Thank you, Min Ji. That's very kind. The thing is, I'm Korean too. My parents speak Korean at home, but I never wanted to learn. I thought it made me different, made me not fit in. But when I heard you sing in Korean, it was so beautiful. It made me proud to be Korean." Maria felt tears in her eyes. "That's wonderful, Minji. You should be proud. Your language is beautiful. Your culture is beautiful. Could you teach me that song? I want to sing it. I want to connect with my grandmother's culture." Maria smiled. "Yes, I would be honored to teach you." They met after classes. Maria taught Minji the song word by word. She explained what each phrase meant. She told her about her own grandmother, and Minji told her about hers. The song became a bridge between generations, between the old country and the new one. 3 months after the gala, Maria's life looked completely different. She still worked at the academy as a cleaning lady. She insisted on keeping that job. It kept her grounded. It reminded her where she came from. But now she also taught. She also inspired. She also performed. The spring concert that the director had mentioned finally arrived. It was a big event. The auditorium was packed. This time Maria wasn't a surprise act. She was a featured performer. Her name was on the program. Maria Chen performing traditional Korean folk music. Sophie sat in the front row with Rosa, Linda, John, and James, her support team, her family. They were all dressed up, excited to see Maria perform again. Backstage, Maria was calm. Not because she wasn't nervous, she was. But she had learned something important. The nervousness was just energy. She could use it. She could channel it into her performance instead of letting it control her. Professor Williams found her before the show. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Maria said with a small smile. "You're going to be wonderful. You always are." Professor Williams squeezed Maria's hand. It was strange how they had become friends. The strict professor who had rejected her was now one of her biggest supporters. People could change. People could grow. When Maria walked onto the stage, the audience burst into applause before she even sang a note. Some of them had seen her perform before. Some had heard her recording. Some just knew her story. They were already on her side. Maria stood at the microphone. She looked out at the sea of faces. She wasn't scared anymore. She was excited. She had something to share, and these people wanted to hear it. "Good evening," she said. Her voice was clear and steady. "Tonight I'm going to sing 3 songs. All of them are traditional Korean folk songs my grandmother taught me. The first one you might know. It's called The Mountain. But the other 2 I've never performed in public before. They're songs about love, about loss, about hope. They're songs that tell the story of my people, my family, my heart." She sang The Mountain first. It was still her most powerful song. The audience was silent throughout, hanging on every note. When she finished, they exploded with applause. Then she sang the second song. It was slower, sadder, a song about leaving home, about saying goodbye to everything familiar and traveling to an unknown place. It was the story of immigrants everywhere, the story of her own family coming to America. Her voice carried the sorrow and the courage of that journey. By the end, many people in the audience were crying. The third song was different. It was joyful, a celebration song, a song about finding home in unexpected places, about making family with people who weren't related by blood, about discovering that belonging isn't about where you were born, but about where you're loved. Maria sang it with her whole heart. And when she finished, the audience didn't just applaud. They stood. They cheered. Some of them were dancing in the aisles. Maria looked out at them with tears of joy streaming down her face. This was her mountain. Not a real mountain, not a physical climb, but a journey from silence to voice, from invisible to seen, from doubt to belief. After the concert, Maria met with fans. They lined up to talk to her, to thank her. to tell her their stories. An elderly Korean woman hugged her and said in Korean, "You make me proud to be Korean. You make me proud to be an immigrant." "Thank you," a young man said. "I work at a grocery store. Everyone looks right through me like I'm not there. But your story reminded me that I matter, that I have value even if people don't see it." A middle-aged woman said, "I gave up painting 20 years ago when someone told me I wasn't talented. Tomorrow I'm buying paints again. Thank you for showing me it's not too late." Each story touched Maria deeply. She realized that her journey wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who had been told they weren't enough. Everyone who had believed the limiting voices. Everyone who needed to see that it was possible to try again. The next week, David Park called Maria with exciting news. The Mountain had been nominated for an Independent Music Award, Best New Artist in Traditional Music. "But I'm not new," Maria protested. "I'm 52 years old." David laughed. "You're new to the public, you're new to the music world. Maria, this is a big deal. If you win, it could open even more doors." Maria didn't win the award. A talented young musician from Mongolia took home the prize. But Maria didn't mind. Being nominated was enough. Being recognized was enough. She had never expected any of this. What mattered more to her was the work she was doing at the academy. Her workshop had grown. Now 50 people came each week. They ranged from teenagers to people in their 80s. They came from all backgrounds, all walks of life. But they all had one thing in common. They wanted to find their voice. Maria taught them what she had learned. Your voice is unique. No one else in the world sounds exactly like you. That's not a weakness. That's your strength. Don't try to sound like someone else. Find out what you sound like, what your heart sounds like. She had them do exercises, simple things. Humming while thinking about something they loved. Singing without words, just sounds. Making noise without worrying about being judged. Music is just organized emotion, Maria told them. Before you worry about the organization, you have to find the emotion. What do you feel? What do you need to express? Start there. The rest will follow. Many of her students made real progress, not just in their singing, but in their lives. They became more confident, more willing to take risks, more able to believe in themselves. One student, a man in his 60s who had worked in an office his whole life, started performing at open mic nights. Another student, a shy teenager, auditioned for her school musical and got the lead role. A woman who had been silenced by an abusive marriage for years found her voice through singing and then found the courage to leave that marriage and start over. Maria heard all these stories and felt humbled. She wasn't a professional teacher. She wasn't a trained therapist. She was just someone who had climbed her own mountain and was willing to help others climb theirs. Sophie finished her teaching degree and got a job at an elementary school. She was so proud and so happy. One evening over dinner, she said, "Mom, you inspired me too, you know." "What do you mean?" "Watching you be brave, watching you try even when you were scared. It made me braver too. When I went to my job interview, I was terrified. But I thought about you standing on that stage. If you could do that, I could do this." Maria reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. "We inspire each other. That's how it should be." The academy officially gave Maria a new title. She was now cleaning staff and community music facilitator. It was a mouthful, but it made her laugh. She was both. She cleaned and she taught. She saw no shame in either job. Both were important. Both were worthy. Professor Williams continued to co-teach with Maria. Their classes became the most popular at the academy. Students said they learned more in those classes than anywhere else. They learned technique and heart, skills and soul. One day, Professor Williams told Maria something meaningful. "You know what you've taught me? That I was teaching people to sing correctly, but I wasn't teaching them to sing truthfully. There's a difference. You can do everything technically right and still not move anyone. But if you sing truthfully, even with imperfect technique, you can change someone's life." Maria thought about this. Maybe the best is both, technique and truth together. "Exactly," Professor Williams agreed. "That's what we're teaching now, thanks to you." James retired from his security job. He was getting older and it was time to rest. On his last day, Maria brought him flowers and a card signed by everyone in her workshop. "Thank you for being the person who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." James hugged her. "You did all the hard work. I just turned on the lights. You did more than that. You gave me a safe place to fail and try again. You gave me patience when I needed it. You gave me hope. And now you're giving that to others," James said. "That's how it works. Someone helps us, then we help someone else. The circle keeps going." Maria continued to perform occasionally, not often. She didn't want to be a full-time performer. She liked her life at the academy. She liked her students. She liked the balance of cleaning and teaching and singing. She liked being Maria Chen, the woman who did many things, not just one thing. The mountain continued to touch lives around the world. It had been streamed over 10 million times. People used it in videos about overcoming obstacles. Teachers played it for students who were struggling. Therapists recommended it to clients who needed inspiration. Maria received messages from all over the world, from Brazil, from Japan, from South Africa, from Iceland. People who heard her song and saw themselves in her story. People who decided to try again because she had tried again. One message came from a woman in Australia. "I'm 73 years old. I always wanted to write poetry, but I thought I was too old and too late. Your song made me realize I still have time. I've written 20 poems in the past month. I'll probably never publish them. But I wrote them, and it's brought me so much joy. Thank you for showing me it's not too late." Maria cried reading messages like these. She had sung a song her grandmother taught her. She had climbed her own mountain, and somehow that simple act had created ripples across the world. Minji, the Korean-American student, performed The Mountain at her high school graduation. She sang it in Korean, honoring her heritage. Her parents cried with pride. After the ceremony, Minji told Maria, "Because of you, I'm not ashamed of being Korean anymore. I'm proud. I'm going to study Korean in college. I want to connect more deeply with my culture." Maria hugged her. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you." "Your grandmother would be proud of you too," Minji said. Maria thought about this often. Would her grandmother be proud? She liked to think so. She had taken the songs her grandmother taught her and shared them with the world. She had honored her memory by being brave, by not giving up, by climbing the mountain. On the first anniversary of the gala performance, the Academy held a special event. They celebrated Maria's journey and the impact she had made. Students performed. Faculty spoke. The director gave a speech about how Maria had changed the culture of the Academy. "We were focused on excellence," he said. "And excellence is important. But Maria taught us something else. She taught us about authenticity, about courage, about the value of every voice, not just the technically perfect ones. She taught us to look beyond the surface and see the heart inside every person who walks through our doors." Maria stood on the stage she had once been terrified of. She looked out at the filled auditorium. She saw Sophie, beaming with pride. She saw her workshop students. She saw Professor Williams, Ms. Rodriguez, and Mr. Kim. She saw Rosa, Linda, and John. She saw so many faces that had become part of her journey. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for listening to a cleaning lady who had something to say. Thank you for teaching me that my voice mattered. Thank you for letting me help others find their voices too." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "My grandmother used to tell me that everyone has a song inside them. Some people sing it loud and clear. Some people hum it quietly. Some people never let anyone hear it at all. But the song is there. It's always there. My hope is that my story helps more people sing their song, whatever it is, wherever they are. It's never too early. It's never too late. The mountain is waiting, and you are strong enough to climb it." The audience applauded, but Maria wasn't done. She had one more thing to do. She stepped up to the microphone. "I'd like to sing for you tonight, not the mountain, something different. A new song I've been working on. It's called The Voice Inside. I wrote it myself. The lyrics are simple, the melody is simple, but it says what I need to say." She sang. Her voice filled the auditorium with a new melody. New words. The same truth. There's a voice inside waiting to be heard. There's a song you hide made of more than words. Don't be afraid, don't hold it down. Let it rise, let it sound. You are worthy, you are strong. You've been enough all along. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the building. Maria Chen, the simple woman who was told she couldn't sing, had just performed an original song she had written herself. She had gone from being invisible to being unforgettable, from being silenced to being heard around the world. But more than that, she had helped others find their voices too. She had shown that it's never too late, that rejection isn't the end, that the person cleaning the floors might have more to offer than anyone realizes, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's singing anyway. Maria bowed to the audience. They rose to their feet once more. She looked out at them with tears of gratitude. This was her life now. Cleaning and teaching and singing. Ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Simple and profound. Just like the woman in her grandmother's song. Just like herself. The woman who climbed the mountain and found her voice at the top.